The judge signed the final divorce papers at 10:14 a.m. By noon, my ex-mother-in-law had already booked a private banquet hall and invited 50 people to celebrate what she called my removal from the family. Photos flooded social media within hours. Champagne glasses, laughter, a giant banner that read, "New beginnings." According to her, she'd finally gotten rid of the biggest mistake her daughter ever made. I was supposed to disappear quietly. What nobody at that party knew was that one guest was about to walk through those doors carrying information that would completely change the room. And my ex-mother-in-law would never see it coming. My name is Emma Carter, and I was 38 years old when my marriage officially ended. The judge signed the final divorce papers on a quiet Thursday morning. There were no dramatic arguments, no tears in the courtroom, and no last-minute attempts to save what had already been broken. Just a signature. One signature ended 12 years of marriage. As I walked out of the courthouse, I expected to feel devastated. Instead, I felt exhausted. For years, my ex-mother-in-law, Diane, had made it clear that she never wanted me in her family. According to her, I wasn't ambitious enough, successful enough, or impressive enough for her son, Ryan. No matter what I did, it was never enough. If I got promoted, she found someone more successful. If I hosted family gatherings, she criticized the food. If Ryan and I disagreed about anything, somehow it became my fault. Over time, the constant pressure damaged our marriage. Ryan rarely defended me. Eventually, I stopped expecting him to. By the time the divorce was finalized, I wasn't mourning the marriage anymore. I was mourning the years I had spent trying to earn acceptance from people who had already made up their minds about me. That afternoon, I went home, ordered takeout, and planned to spend the evening in peace. Then my phone started buzzing. First one message, then another, then 5 more. Friends were sending screenshots. At first, I thought something had happened. Then I opened the photos. My stomach dropped. Diane had rented a private banquet hall. A huge banner hung above the stage. New beginnings. At least 50 people filled the room. Relatives, family friends, neighbors, former coworkers. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was celebrating my divorce. One video showed Diane raising a champagne glass. "Tonight," she announced proudly, "we celebrate Ryan's freedom and a brighter future." The room erupted into applause. Another photo showed Ryan standing beside her, smiling awkwardly but saying nothing. Not once. Not in a single photo. Not in a single video. I stared at the screen for several minutes. Surprisingly, I wasn't angry. Just disappointed. 12 years together, and this was how they chose to close the chapter. By turning it into entertainment. I set my phone down and tried to move on. A few minutes later, an unfamiliar number appeared on my screen. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. "Hello." A calm male voice answered. "Emma, this is Michael Bennett." I immediately recognized the name. Michael had been a longtime family friend of Ryan's parents. "I just received an invitation to tonight's celebration," he said. Then his voice became serious. "And before that party starts, there's something about Ryan's family that you deserve to know." I sat in a quiet coffee shop across town 20 minutes later, staring at Michael Bennett as he stirred his coffee. Michael was in his early 60s and had known Ryan's family for decades. He wasn't the type of man who enjoyed gossip. That alone made me nervous. "Emma," he said carefully, "I'm not calling to make your day worse." "Then why do I feel like you're about to?" He sighed. "Because what I'm about to tell you explains a lot." My stomach tightened. Michael opened a folder he had brought with him. "I've been helping Diane and Ryan's uncle with some business records over the last year." I frowned. "What does that have to do with me?" "More than you realize." He slid several documents across the table. At first, they looked like ordinary financial reports. Then I noticed the numbers. Large debts, missed payments, loans, lines of credit. A lot of them. I looked up. "I don't understand. The family isn't doing nearly as well as people think." I blinked. "What?" Michael nodded. "For years they've been maintaining an image of success. Expensive vacations, new cars, fancy parties. But behind the scenes, things have been getting worse. The information felt impossible to process. Ryan's family had always acted like they were financially untouchable, like everyone else should admire them, including me. Why are you telling me this now? Because Diane spent years blaming you for problems you never caused. He tapped another document. You know who actually helped stabilize things whenever money got tight? I looked down. The answer was obvious.
Me.
During my marriage, I had managed budgets, helped Ryan pay off debt, and repeatedly encouraged responsible decisions. Every time things improved, Diane credited Ryan. Every time things struggled, she blamed me. Michael shook his head. They've rewritten history. I sat silently. A strange feeling settled over me. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Relief. For years I had wondered whether I really was the problem. Now I finally knew I wasn't. Are you planning to expose all this tonight? I asked.
No.
Neither am I. Michael smiled slightly. I thought you'd say that. That evening, social media filled with more photos from the celebration. The crowd looked even bigger now.
People posed beside the banner.
Champagne glasses clinked. Speeches were being made. The comments were full of congratulations. Nobody seemed interested in hearing both sides. Then something unexpected happened. A new photo appeared online. Several guests were gathered near the entrance. Standing among them was someone instantly recognizable. A respected community leader whom many people admired. Someone who knew the family well. Someone who also knew the truth. The atmosphere in the room seemed to change immediately. An hour later, Michael sent me a text. The main toast is about to start. Then another message arrived seconds later. He just stood up. And he said, before we celebrate, I think everyone deserves to hear the complete story. I wasn't at the celebration. I never planned to be. But over the next hour, my phone became a window into everything that happened inside that banquet hall. Text messages started arriving from people who had attended. Then came photos. Then videos. And suddenly, the party Diane had spent weeks organizing wasn't going according to plan anymore. According to one guest, the room had been loud and cheerful moments earlier. Champagne glasses were raised. People were laughing. Diane was preparing to give her biggest speech of the night. Then the unexpected guest stood up. The room immediately grew quiet. Everyone knew who he was. He wasn't someone who enjoyed drama. He wasn't someone who spoke without a reason. That alone got everyone's attention. Several guests later told me he remained calm the entire time. No yelling. No accusations. Just facts. He began by saying that celebrations were supposed to be based on truth. Then, he started sharing things many people in the room had never heard before. He talked about the years I spent supporting Ryan, the financial sacrifices I had made, the responsibilities I quietly handled while others took credit, the times I stepped in to help during difficult situations without ever asking for recognition. The room became noticeably quieter. Guests who had arrived expecting a simple celebration suddenly looked uncomfortable. The story they had been told didn't match the information they were hearing. Diane reportedly interrupted several times. Each time, the guest calmly continued. More details emerged. More questions followed. Several relatives began exchanging confused looks. Others pulled out their phones and started reviewing old conversations and messages. Ryan remained silent. For the first time, people weren't simply accepting Diane's version of events. They were thinking for themselves. One guest later told me the atmosphere changed completely. The celebration slowly stopped feeling like a celebration. It felt more like a room full of people realizing they hadn't heard the whole story. Within an hour, guests began leaving. Some left quietly. Others offered awkward goodbyes. A few reportedly approached Ryan with questions he couldn't answer. By the end of the evening, nearly half the room had gone home early. The party that was supposed to celebrate my humiliation had become something very different. Not revenge. Not public embarrassment. Just truth. And truth has a way of making people uncomfortable when they've spent years believing something else. Over the following weeks, several relatives contacted me. Some apologized. Others admitted they had only heard one side of the story. For the first time in years, I felt understood. Not because I had defended myself. Because I didn't. The facts did that for me. Looking back, Losing that marriage wasn't the tragedy I once thought it was. The real tragedy would have been spending the rest of my life trying to earn approval from people determined not to give it. Instead, I got something far more valuable.
Peace.
And sometimes, peace is the best ending anyone can ask for.